Pastoral leadership. I wanted to talk about it, but in my recent sermon I didn't cover a rich seam of practical wisdom in Paul's letter to Philemon. That short one-chapter letter written around AD 61 while Paul was in prison in Rome, awaiting his trial before Caesar. He got off, by the way. That short letter is wise in practical pastoral leadership. In verse 4, he shares how he prays for Philemon and the little church that meets in his home. I find few people turn down my offer to pray for them. It's as if they know prayer does matter. God is worth involving. In verse 5, he speaks of being thankful to God for their love and their faith. He spots something good. We all like being encouraged by the good others see in us. In verse 6, he recalls their partnership in the faith. Paul knows that even across the 1,000 miles between them, they're working together for the sake of the gospel. In the same verse, Paul rejoices that his partnership with Philemon and that little church is helping faith to grow and be effective, love in action to their neighbours and to one another. In verse 7, he shares how much joy and morale boosting, remember Paul's awaiting trial, is he hearing about Philemon and that little church, as that church builds one another up in love and faith. In verse 8, Paul refuses to lord it over Philemon. He's an apostle. He could give an order to Philemon, but he lives and breathes Jesus' example. I come not to be served, but to serve. Mark chapter 10, verse 45. In verse 9, Paul again follows Jesus' example. His letter, his appeal, his encouragement are based on love. Well, what an extraordinary example of leadership in action. And if you're in leadership, take note of Paul's precedent. Pray for others. Be thankful for them. Say something good about them. Remember, we work best as partners in God's purpose as we build one another up, and we do it all within the love of God. Actually, Paul's example is for all of us, in leadership or not. Pray, thank, compliment, partner, inspire, love. And then how could you do that this week amongst whom you live and work?